Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ringside Cinema. I am Money Mike, and Survivor Series is in the books, and that means we are looking forward to Monday, because Monday is the New Day 10th anniversary celebration, and boy oh boy, we gotta talk about it, because what is going to happen on Raw? That is like the big thing. You know, I talked about this in my Survivor Series predictions. Like, I was looking forward to this. The way they've built this up. And the way that they have gotten us to the point where we're like, okay, we know something's going to happen, but we don't know what it is. So it's going to be one of those, like, surprise, like, oh, what is really going to happen, you know? Like, for once, it feels like we don't know what's going to happen, right? You know, Kofi and Xavier got into it. They had a little argument backstage. And then Xavier was like, hey, see you at the anniversary. And they walked off. Like, there's so much to unpack with this New Day 10th anniversary celebration coming up. And yeah, I mean, it's not a New Day anymore. I mean, after Monday night, whatever happens, probably going to be the main event segment, the closing segment of the show. It's going to be a sad day, because nobody would have ever thought the New Day would have broken up. You know, this is like one of the teams that have survived not breaking up, not having any tension, jealousy. And when you look back, like, everybody was saying, like, all the fans kept speculating, oh, when, you know, what if, like, Big E or Xavier gets jealous because of Kofi winning the title at WrestleMania? Maybe that's how they break up. You know, whatever. Like, it's, you know, maybe Kofi gets jealous that Big E won the title, and, like, everybody kept trying to predict, like, how they would break up, but then they would never break up. And yeah, you could say it's a good thing for longevity. And, you know, it was a good thing, right? Because the success they've had as a trio, but also kind of showing that they've broken the mold in the sense of you don't need to split a team up to have, for somebody to have single success, right? Kofi Kingston won the WWE Championship, and in fact, you know, Xavier Woods brought this up to Kofi in this segment last week, which is why I loved it so much, because they kept taking digs at one another. And, you know, Xavier's like, hey, you know, we were the reason you even won the title to begin with. And that was, you know, harken back to when Xavier and Big E had to win the gauntlet, the tag team gauntlet, to get Kofi Kingston to WrestleMania. And then Xavier saying that he pissed it away in 6 seconds to Brock Lesnar, and like, man, last week's Raw was so good. I'm so ready to see what is going to happen. But the big question here is, and I mean big, what is Big E going to do? Like, what is his role going to be in all of this? Because on the kickoff pre-show, Big E never really mentioned it, unless I missed it while I was trying to get my stream set up. Big E never once mentioned it, of what's been going on between Kofi and Woods. Now, I think there was something a while back where he mentioned something about two friends of his fighting or something, but he hasn't directly referenced what's been happening. And that, to me, is like most intriguing, because we've seen all this play out with Kofi, and we've seen it being played out with Woods, but we have not seen Big E. We have not heard from Big E. He has not acknowledged what's been happening. So that, to me, is probably the most intriguing thing going into Monday Night Raw tomorrow, because what is Big E's role going to be? You know, a lot of people are speculating, you know, who's going to turn heel, and what if Big E joins up with whoever turns heel? That's the other thing. Like, there's so much. There's so much to this. Like, who's going to turn heel? How's the segment going to go down? Like, what's Big E's role is going to be? Like, there's so much to unpack with this. But what's interesting to me is that Xavier Woods in the past has actually said they've actually turned down stories in the past of splitting up the New Day. They've been pitched ideas to split up the New Day, but they've ultimately turned them down. And I think that, to me, is interesting because, like, I do feel like whatever storylines were previously pitched for the New Day to be broken up. Now, mind you, that would have been under Vince McMahon and his booking, so that probably would have been something more of Big E turns heel, he gets a push, he turns on them both, he gets a world title run, and then Kofi and Xavier probably end up getting released or something. I don't know. Because that's literally what I feel like what would have happened if Vince would have gotten his way with, like, splitting up the New Day previously, where it would have only been about Big E, and then Kofi and Xavier would have been left out and doing nothing. You know, we've seen tag teams split up, and then, you know, the person who turned really didn't do nothing, or there wasn't no story attached to it. You know, you look at Tucker and Otis, right? Tucker turned on Otis, cost him the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then they did nothing with it. He ended up getting released. So that's kind of what I feel like, you know, where Kofi and Xavier and Big E have kind of been right, you know, to turn down splitting up the New Day in the past, because I do think, you know, they probably had in the back of their mind how Vince books and how he thinks, and, well, we split up. If we say yes to this storyline or this story, you know, what's going to happen to us? You know, if Big E is going to be the world champion, which I'm sure they would be happy for, you know, what's going to happen to them? You know, would they be, you know, done? Would they be eventually released like a year or two later? Like, so I feel like, to me, I applaud the New Day for sticking to their guns, saying, hey, we don't want to be broken up. Like, no, we're not going to split up. Because I do think they did have in the back of their mind, probably would not have not ended well for two of those three. So now let's look at what's going on now, right? So obviously they started this whole tension when Odyssey Jones, who was released because there was some legal stuff that came up, and WWE didn't want nothing to do with it. And we haven't heard of Odyssey Jones since. So there was this whole tension between Kofi and Woods, where Kofi was kind of doing things without telling Woods. Woods was getting mad at Kofi. He was like, why are you bringing in Odyssey Jones? And they would hint at certain stuff like they would hint at Big E, and like oh that's it, oh you know, like they're trying to, like Woods felt like Kofi was trying to replace Big E. You know, then we got the segment with the LWO where the LWO was help. You know, Kofi asked the LWO for help, and Woods was like, hey, why were they involved? And that led to Woods and Mysterio, and that great ending between Woods and Mysterio, where Woods takes off Ray's mask, and there was more tension there. And then we got to last week. Ultimately, you know, all this build up, right? Weeks on end, and finally we got this build up to last week. They get squashed by Otis and Cesaro, and it was like, holy crap, and they keep going back and forth. They're like, hey, I'm the quarterback, and you're supposed to be, I'm calling the plays. They keep doing they keep doing all this stuff, and eventually we finally got what we got last week, where that blow off, it was finally weeks and months of tension between the two, and they finally just let it out, and they just went off, took shots at one another, and yeah. So I'm gonna be curious, what is this segment going to be? A lot of people have compared it to the Festival of Friendship, where it's going to be very similar, where it's going to be this big celebration thing that's going to turn into a very, very sad day. Very tearful. I feel like this is going to be a segment that is going to make a lot of fans cry. There's going to be some, a lot of, the longevity of the New Day. You think they wouldn't break up, and then, when it actually happens, it's going to be that really tearful moment for fans, because it's oh my gosh, it's actually happening. But then there's going to be that part of a lot of fans who say, oh, okay, this was done right. Let's hope, will they follow through with it? That's the thing. Who is going to turn heel, right? No matter how this segment ends on Raw, Triple H, creative, they've got to follow through with this whole storyline. Whoever turns heel, which I feel it's going to be Xavier. I do feel it's going to be Xavier Woods turning heel, because for me, the fact that Kofi was hey, dude, you haven't even won a singles title yet. You came to me to start the New Day. This whole thing feels it's leading to a Xavier Woods singles run, where he is going to actually be a singles champion, where he could probably win the Intercontinental title, which maybe once Sheamus does win the Intercontinental title from Braun Breaker, maybe Xavier beats Sheamus for the Intercontinental title. Maybe Xavier wins Money in the Bank. Big E won Money in the Bank. They're to become WWE champion. So there's a lot of things they could do, but I definitely feel Xavier's the one turning heel. And outside of the whole who's turning heel thing, which I think will be Xavier, the big thing for a lot of people is, what is Big E's role going to be in this segment, right? Is he going to align with Xavier Woods? Is he going to align with Kofi Kingston? Or is he going to try to play the peacemaker? Is he going to try to bring the team back in the fold, right? Get them back on the same page, right? There's so much intrigue around who's turning heel, but I think the big thing here is, again, pun intended, Big E's role in all of this. He has not mentioned this on TV. I don't think he hasn't directly mentioned it. So the fact that he has not directly mentioned it on TV is what makes this whole entire segment so interesting to me. So, yeah. Comment below. What do you guys think is going to happen on Monday Night Raw? Do you guys think the New Day actually finally splits? Will Big E bring the team back together? Or will something else completely happen that we don't expect? Comment below. Comment below your favorite New Day memory. I don't have a New Day t-shirt, so I just kind of wore a Dragon Ball Super t-shirt. Kind of like they did last week, where Kofi had a Goku shirt, and then Xavier was Goku Black. And I was always very fond of the New Day entrance from WrestleMania 32 when they came out with the Saiyan armor. So as a Dragon Ball fan, I thought that was pretty cool. So I just went with the Dragon Ball t-shirt for this segment, for this show. So yeah, comment below. What do you guys think of this segment? Will it be a festival of friendship? Will Big E reunite the New Day? comment below. And as always, hit that like and subscribe button as I produce weekly wrestling content here at Ringside Cinema. I've been your host, Money Mike, and I will be back with my reaction to what happens on the New Day in the New Day segment on Tuesday.
Ringside Cinema, where the battles roar. Ringside Cinema, legends at the core. Tune in, feel the rush. Wrestling meets the screen. Ringside Cinema, living out the dream. Living out the dream. Living out the dream. Lights down, time to go. Cheers for heroes we know. Ringside for